XRP and XLM, which one's better? Which one should you own? And which one does Elon Musk like? Better's not a really good question to ask because they're different and the same at the same time. XRP and XLM are essentially the same technology. They have different designations, which means you call them something different, and they have different audiences, but basically perform the same function. And they're seemingly different companies. XRP is for large wealth transfers on the institutional and banking side. There's not meant to be retail regular person access to XRP or usage of. Now XLM is everything outside of that. The rest of the world's going to run on XLM. At least that's the idea. So you have the private banking side, then you basically have all businesses that interact with retail, regular mid-sized businesses. That's going to be your XLM side. Now it's also going to be banking the unbankable. There's only about 2 billion people with bank accounts. I believe that's the number. They want to get everybody into the system, which means all down the African corridor, the South American corridor, everywhere. They just want to give people phones so they can be bankable, so they can then hit the satellites, which I'm going to talk about with Elon Musk in a minute. Let's also throw in here the stable coins, RLUSD and USDC. Obviously, based on all the news, which is the most recent thing that's happened, it's the thing that you can see in the news. You know RLUSD is a stable coin created for the banks on the XRP ledger. But did you know that USDC, which is a seemingly different company, originally built on Ethereum, is already on the XLM network? So you have RLUSD, which is a necessary stablecoin for the banks on the XRP ledger that works with XRP. And you have Circle, which makes USDC a seemingly different company than Stellar Foundation, which is XLM. They're seemingly different companies, yet somehow it's all kind of lining up. USDC, well-established reserves, meets all the MiCA requirements. They're following regulation, and they seem to be the only one in the industry on the retail side that's doing that, because USDT, we all know, is the villain in the story that gets to be axed so that the other ones can rise. You've got the two stable coins that are basically approved in the United States right now are USDC and RLUSD. That's not an accident. So essentially you have RLUSD handling the banking side and you have USDC handling all the rest. Now let me invite you to see this entire thing just a little bit differently, and I'm going to talk about Elon Musk and how he potentially plays into all this. Again, this is all just entertainment, right? These companies are seemingly separate, okay? They're founded by different people. They're not doing business with one another until what seems to be now. I worked at the phone company. I worked at Bell South from 1999 to 2011. When I came in 1999, I was like 22. The old timers that were there, they'd already been there for 30, 40 years. They were already embedded in the company. They'd always talk about how AT&T, before it was broken up in like 1982, it's called the divestiture. It was one company that ran the whole country. One company, AT&T. You might have heard of them. But AT&T themselves got broken up in the divestiture and became Bell South, Bell Atlantic, whatever, California Bell. That's what happened. And then for a few decades, they seemingly operated independently of one another, based on local region, climate, and politics, all developing their technologies for the future, whether it's TV, cellular phones, all that stuff, okay? And they all use different technologies. Verizon's technology was different than Bell South's technology when they went into cellular. They used a little bit different, like wave division, multiplexing, etc. I'm not going to get into any of that, even though I love talking about that stuff too. You might remember a time when you couldn't send text and have phone calls on Verizon at the same time. That was a thing. But what happened is AT&T pulled itself back together after so many years. AT&T acquired Bell South. They acquired and acquired and acquired. And then what seemingly you have is like 3 or 4 big carriers. But make no mistake, for a lot of different reasons, including surveillance, they're all interconnected, still seemingly operating as different companies. Now, the idea I want to invite you to is that the new financial system, including Ripple and Stellar and all these companies that are seemingly, and Hidden Road, all these companies have been started individually at different times for different purposes, and now as an organism is pulling itself together so it's organized and running efficiently and coming online. You might call it Skynet. But just like AT&T brought itself together after so many decades of independent operation of all these little individual entities, that's what's happening with the financial system. But that's the idea. Now let's talk about Elon Musk for a minute. Did you know in like 1998 and 1999, Elon Musk was the first person, this is my understanding of it anyways, the first person to actually send digital money instantaneously? It was a website called X.com. which then turned into PayPal. Obviously, you know he turned Twitter into X.com. Now, you don't think he bought that just because of free speech, do you? But what if, and I'm going to give you a what if here. I saw a video on this and it made total intuitive sense to me. What if the reason, because what happened was is Elon Musk separated himself from PayPal, seemingly separated himself from PayPal, and went off into rockets. Why would you go from payment system to rocket building? To go to Mars? Like, okay, you can't even get out of here. But my understanding, and this is what this video really made sense to me, because if you know that, then you start looking at it differently. What if Elon Musk went into rockets because he knew the financial system was coming, and he's launching satellites up there with things like H-bar already in there so that you can bank the unbankable. Now, you really have to think about the access Elon Musk has had to the payment systems of old in order to expose fraud, waste, and abuse, which is the official story, the official cover story that they put out to the news. But behind the scenes, you have a crypto-friendly administration, and you have Elon Musk, who's been at the beginning of this since 1998, 1999 with X.com. And did you know PayPal? My understanding, again, PayPal has always run what's called the Hyperledger or Hyperfabric, which is IBM's technology, which is associated with XLM. I bet you've never thought too deeply about how do they all of a sudden start instant payment transfers all over the place with PayPal over 20 years ago. Have you ever thought about that? Which is really interesting because Ripple, XRP, has been partners with Apple, who was partners with AT&T for the original iPhones for a long time. Apple and Ripple are partners, and IBM and Stellar are partners. So now you have basically most of the phones on the planet kind of contained already in these two technologies. Now, if you've seen any of my XRP symbolism videos, you'll know that I've pointed out that these Freemasons logo has a bunch of X's in it. So going back to the original question, which one should you own? It's not about one or the other. It's about all of it. It's about the whole thing, seeing it as a whole rather than the fragmented mind looks at one, which is better than the other. No, they go together. They work together. They're complementary, and they're for different audiences and are called different things but perform the same function. So let's talk about Elon Musk and which one he likes better, which is XLM or XRP. And from a business standpoint and logic, he probably owns both. From a symbolic point of view, all you have to do is look at Elon Musk's branding. SpaceX, Starlink, Stellar. And wouldn't it be interesting if somewhere way back in the beginning behind the scenes, Elon Musk actually had a hand in starting the Stellar Foundation? It would make sense that Stellar is probably the chosen one because logically, again, the Stellar coin, XLM, is for the retail side. So when he integrates it into X.com, it's going to be dealing with people because it's going to be the largest money transfer business in the world when it comes online, which is why he bought X. None of this stuff is random, and it's all right in front of our faces.